Hello everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And as usual, I have a couple of announcements. And the first one is, if you live in driving distance of Columbus, Ohio, on Saturday, March 7th from 10 to 4, we are doing a Food Over Medicine boot camp. It's a whole program based on the concepts in my book. I'm teaching it myself. The tuition is $30 for members, $40 for non-members. It includes the entire program, a wonderful lunch, lots of time for Q&A. We're going to have a lot of time for discussion. And I always feel like when I do workshops and things of that nature, everybody has more questions than we have time to ask and answer. And we're going to leave a lot of time for that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about diet and health, and diet and disease, and diagnostic tests and supplements and drugs, and all kinds of different topics and all kinds of applications. A big swath of information that I think you'll really enjoy. And so if you can get in the car and be here on a Saturday, I think you'll really enjoy spending the day with me. And we did this last year. Everybody really enjoyed it. In fact, people hung around for a couple of hours after it was over, which was great, you know. So if you have any questions about this, email me at pampopper@msn.com, and you can always just call the office if you want to get yourself signed up to come. Remember that March 31st is the deadline for non-members to sign the pledge and get a gift certificate, the Stop Talking, Start Doing pledge. And boy, they keep coming in. We are so happy about this campaign. And I think just the act of saying, you know what, I am going to take action this year, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. We should have done this a long time ago, actually. It's a great campaign. And new courses are coming up. In fact, today starts the vaccine course. There are 9 other new courses this year. And you might want to contact us about how you can qualify for a free course. pampopper@msn.com. Send me an email. Just a couple of things that I'll cover before I get to the content for today. One is, well, maybe 2 or 3 things, housekeeping things. One is, if you want references and the citations and all that sort of thing for what I talk about in these videos, you need to become a member and have access to the library. And I say this every once in a while, this is what you get for free. After all this, then you have to actually become a member, and there's some good reasons to become a member. You sure do get a lot for your money, all right? Second thing is the content here in this, and for everything that I do and that we do, is always vetted. We always look at everything. I don't put anything out there that I haven't had an opportunity to really check into and give an evaluation of based on the way that we evaluate things. So here's why I'm telling you this. Some of you leave comments and you get upset with me because I don't approve them. And you say, well, but I had some suggestions for people who are in pain or this or that. You might have had some suggestions, and some of them might even be good. And I make notes of things that I have not had an opportunity to check into. I have a big, long list, running list of things that are things I'm interested in finding out more about. But until I find out more about them, I don't post anything about them. So this is not a community discussion board where everybody's welcome to join in and post stuff and that sort of thing, because I want the information to be sorted and vetted according to certain criteria so that I can tell you what I think the evidence shows about it. And I just don't have time week to week to look into all of the things that you suggest. Some of them are patently wrong and it's easy to just hit delete, but some of the things that you guys send me look very interesting, and I do add them to the list, just so you know. I'm not ignoring your suggestions. I don't want you to think that I am doing that, because that would not be true. And last but not least, I say this all the time, if you're thinking about a career in our field, happy to talk to you about it. We've been doing this for 25 years. We have a really good idea of what it takes to make this work from an economic and business perspective. And we have a very good training program that teaches people how to do what we do. So if you're interested in exploring that, if you have healthcare training, great. If you don't, that's also fine. Just determines what kind of program you might be entering. But send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. We can explore the options together. All right? Well, I have 2 shorter topics instead of 1 longer one, but both are related to the right diet for humans. And the first one goes to some remains of a campsite in South Africa that I want to talk to you about. So it's amazing to me that we spend a lot of time in our country, well, all over the world actually, hypothesizing about what people were eating hundreds of thousands of years ago. And we have really good evidence right now about what people are eating and the health consequences of doing it. And it seems to me that the stuff we're sure about would be a better source of discussion than hypothesizing about what happened a long time ago. Paleo advocates have insisted for decades that people have always been carnivores, even though an animal foods-based diet has been shown to increase the risk of degenerative disease and all kinds of conditions today. I mean, we can look at the different societies around the world, what they eat, what their statistics are from a health perspective. We look at what happens when their diets change over time. In fact, I'm covering a book in advanced study right now called How We Eat by B. Wilson, which is the story of how diets have changed and the consequences, health consequences of those changes over a very long period of time. So anyway, a growing body of evidence shows that while our ancestors were certainly not eating a vegan diet, we've been omnivores, but they were cooking and eating significant amounts of starchy foods. And I first reported on this when a campsite of Neanderthals was found. And you can, if you're a member, you can go read this article in the library. This campsite was found some time ago, and it was obvious that the food that was cooked that where they were cooking at this campsite was starchy plant food, and the reason was that we can now analyze the plaque and teeth and pretty much determine what people were eating, and that's how they figured it out. But a new site was just discovered in South Africa with similar findings. The archaeology group found burned remains of rhizomes in a cooking fire site in Border Cave, which are estimated to be about 170,000 years old. The researchers think that the reason why the plants were preserved was because of cooking. And by the way, one of the problems with these camps is that plant material doesn't survive as long as animal bones, so it's easy to infer that because there are animal bones at a site that that's all they were eating, but the plant stuff really disintegrates. But in this case, they found some pretty intact stuff. Now, if you're not familiar with rhizomes, they're high carbohydrate root vegetables like lotus root, which is still consumed in Asian diets today. When cooked, the plants become softer and easier to digest, and the glucose becomes more available. These plants are found all over the world and likely were consumed in many geographic areas. So the thing is, promoters of the paleo diet, in addition to insisting that the main source of calories in the ancestral diet was animal foods, also claim that starchy foods are bad for humans. Once again, it seems that research findings interfere with the story that the paleo folks like to tell. Apparently, the paleo diet really wasn't paleo after all, as defined today, and we may never know the exact composition of the diets of our ancestors, but it appears that they were plant eaters and that some of the plants were starchy foods. So take the paleo advice with a grain of salt, because again, I think we have good data about what people are eating today that's much more relevant. Now, on to the next thing. I think this is just a marvelous little case series I want to report to you. I'm sometimes asked, and I get emails from people, you know, is it ever too late to change to a plant-based diet? Can you be too old or too sick or too overweight, or have you just deteriorated to the place where change won't matter? Well, it is never too late, and there are benefits to be had from dietary change almost regardless of age, weight, and health status. A good example is a case series published in a medical journal that included 3 people suffering from heart failure. The researchers reported that all 3 patients showed significant improvement after an average of only 79 days of eating a plant-based diet. The patients were told to eliminate all animal products, all oils, cooked foods, soft drinks, alcohol, and coffee, and to just eat raw fruit, vegetables, avocado, seeds, and small amounts of raw oats and buckwheat. The results were significant, particularly in view of the poor health of all 3 patients at the start of the study, and also the relatively short period of time, 79 days, that they were followed up. Average left ventricular ejection fraction increased from 22% to 42.2%. Average ventricular mass decreased by 21%. Average stroke volume increased by 62%, and average cardiac output increased by 17%. One patient had over 90% osteostenosis, which is abnormal narrowing of the blood vessels of the heart of the left anterior descending artery, which almost completely regressed as a result of the diet. Additionally, all 3 patients reported improvements such as a reduction in angina, less shortness of breath, and less fatigue. Now, we don't have any medications that produce any results remotely like this at this point in time. So the improvements were almost certainly a result of the dietary change. Limitations of the study are obvious. Small number of subjects, short time of follow-up, and another limitation is we don't know what would have happened if the participants had been eating some cooked food. We don't promote a raw food diet here because of the difficulty in achieving caloric adequacy. But still, the prognosis of patients with heart failure is very poor, and there's no reason not to try conversion to a plant-based diet. Nothing is going to go wrong as a result of doing that, and according to this study, a lot of things may start to go right. Okay, that's all for today. Hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, and as usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news.